Hi, I'm Sigrid. And let me tell you something. Getting food poisoning was the least painful part of my story. It started with a fever, a stomachache so bad I could barely stand. I thought my family would be there for me. Instead, they packed their bags, took my credit card, and left for Los Angeles. Without me. "We're off to Hollywood. Don't call." That's what they said as I lay there, barely able to move. But that was just the beginning. The betrayal ran deeper than I ever imagined. They drained my bank account. They sabotaged my career. And when I finally fought back, they played the victim. I woke up to a sharp pain twisting in my stomach, the kind that sent waves of nausea rolling through my body. My skin felt clammy, my head light, and the room spun as I tried to sit up. Something was wrong. I barely managed to grab my phone from the nightstand, my fingers trembling as I typed a message. "Mom, I think I have food poisoning. I need someone to take me to the hospital." I waited, no reply. I tried calling, pressing the phone against my ear while my body shivered under the thin blanket. The ringing seemed to last forever before it went to voicemail. I tried again. Nothing. Through the thin walls of my apartment, I could hear them. My mother's voice, high and animated, talking about hotel bookings. My sister, Vesper, laughing. The clinking of coffee cups. I forced myself up, gripping the wall as I stumbled toward the living room. My vision blurred, but I could still make them out. Mom adjusting her travel scarf in the mirror. Vesper lounging on the couch with her legs tucked under her, scrolling through her phone. I cleared my throat. "Mom!" She barely glanced at me. "Honey, you look awful." "I feel awful," I rasped. "I think I need to go to the ER." She sighed, setting her purse down. "Oh, sweetheart, you're just overreacting. It's probably just a stomach bug. Rest, drink some water, you'll be fine." Vesper snorted. "Yeah, take a Tums or something. We're leaving soon." I gripped the doorframe for support. "I can barely stand up." Mom turned back to the mirror, fixing her lipstick. "Sigrid, we have a flight to catch." I blinked. "You're still going?" She looked at me as if I had just asked the dumbest question in the world. "Of course, honey. The hotel is non-refundable." I stared at her, then at Vesper, who was still scrolling through her phone like this was all just a mild inconvenience. My father, Calder, stood by the door, checking his watch. He hadn't said a single word. I swallowed the lump in my throat. "So, you're just leaving me here? Sick? Alone?" Mom let out a soft laugh, shaking her head. "Oh, don't be dramatic, Sigrid. You're a grown woman." Vesper smirked. "Yeah, you'll survive." I wanted to scream, to grab their suitcases and throw them out the window, to demand even the smallest shred of concern. But I didn't. I just stood there, nausea twisting my stomach, watching as my own family put their vacation over my well-being. Calder finally spoke, his voice neutral. "We should get going." Mom picked up her designer bag, looping it over her shoulder. "We'll call when we land, sweetheart." Vesper grabbed her suitcase handle, flashing me a condescending smile. "Don't call us, we'll be busy." Then they were gone. The door shut, leaving behind an eerie silence. The sound of their luggage wheels against the hallway floor faded, and I stood there, feeling the weight of it all settle into my chest. I was nothing to them. Not really. My legs wobbled as I stumbled back to the couch, my head pounding. I grabbed my phone again, not sure why. Maybe out of habit, maybe out of desperate hope that I'd see something, anything, to prove that I mattered. I opened my banking app. My stomach clenched. $0 available. They didn't just abandon me. They took my money, too. I stared at my phone screen, my vision blurring as the numbers burned into my brain. 0. How? My hands shook as I refreshed the page, willing it to be some sort of mistake, a glitch, a banking error. But the balance didn't change. They took everything. A shiver ran down my spine, not just from the fever still clinging to my body, but from the sharp realization creeping in. They hadn't just left me to fend for myself while I was sick. They had drained my account before walking out the door, boarding their first-class flight to Los Angeles like nothing had happened. My stomach twisted as I swiped to my credit card statements, my fingers moving on autopilot. The numbers and locations popped up like flashing red warning signs. Beverly Hills Hotel, $1,200. First-class flight upgrades, $500. Hollywood VIP tour, $300. Fine dining, $150. I felt my nausea surge, but this time it had nothing to do with the food poisoning. They didn't even ask. They just took it. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles ached. No, this wasn't happening. This couldn't be happening. I tried to breathe through the dizziness, but the betrayal sat heavy in my chest, pressing down like a weight I couldn't shake off. My body screamed for rest, for sleep, for anything but this. But my mind was already spiraling. I needed answers. Now I hit the call button, dialing my mother first. Ring, voicemail. I tried again. Straight to voicemail. I clenched my jaw and tried my father next, knowing deep down that it was useless. Nothing. Fine. I scrolled down, my thumb hovering over Vesper's name. Before I could call, a text popped up from her instead. Vesper. Relax, it's just a few charges. We'll pay you back when we can. I stared at the words, my pulse pounding in my ears. A few charges? My entire account was gone. My fingers flew across the screen before I could stop myself. Me. Did you seriously steal my money? Read. No response. I tried again. Me. This isn't a few charges, Vesper. You maxed out my card. That was my rent money. A new message appeared. Vesper. Oh my God, you're so dramatic. You act like we robbed you. We just borrowed it. We'll pay you back. Chill. Chill? My blood turned ice cold. Me. You stole from me. Without asking. That's not borrowing. That's theft. Nothing. The silence stretched, thick and suffocating, until my phone buzzed again. This time, it was my mother. I sucked in a breath and picked up. Mom! Oh, sweetheart, she cut in, her voice light, as if I had just interrupted her during brunch. You don't need to be so upset over this. I gritted my teeth. You took my money. There was a long pause, followed by a soft chuckle. Now don't be ridiculous, Sigrid. There must be a mistake. Maybe the bank mixed up the charges. I blinked, gripping the phone tighter. Gaslighting. She was gaslighting me. Again. Mom, I just checked my statements. The Beverly Hills Hotel, the flight upgrades, the fine dining, all of it came from my account. There's no mistake. She sighed like I was exhausting her. Sigrid, honey, we didn't want to bother you while you were sick. We figured it was fine since you weren't using it. I nearly dropped the phone. You left me while I was sick, and now I have nothing in my account. She let out a little laugh. Oh, don't be so dramatic. The world tilted. She wasn't even denying it. She wasn't apologizing. She wasn't even trying to justify it properly. I felt something inside me snap, like a thread stretched too tight for too long. They didn't care. They never had. And I was done pretending that they did. I hung up. Before I could let the guilt sink its claws into me, before the self-doubt and second-guessing crept in, I pulled up my banking app again. My hands still trembled, but this time, it wasn't from sickness. I moved quickly. First, I locked my credit cards. Then, I canceled every single automatic payment linked to them. Finally, I set up alerts for any future transactions. No more money, no more access, no more control. I exhaled, my body still weak, but my mind sharper than it had been in years. They used me for the last time. And this time, they were going to regret it. The next morning, the sky outside my window was the same shade of gray I felt inside. Heavy clouds pressed against the skyline, the air thick and still. A storm was coming. I sat on the couch, my body still weak from the sickness, but my mind sharper than it had been in years. I had locked my cards, cut off their access to my finances, and now I was waiting for the fallout. It didn't take long. My phone lit up with a call. Mom! I inhaled deeply, pressing my thumb against the screen before answering. Sweetheart, she cooed, her voice syrupy sweet, like nothing had happened. How are you feeling? My grip on the phone tightened. Let's not do this, I said flatly. Why is my credit card maxed out on your trip? There was a beat of silence, then a soft, disbelieving laugh. Oh, honey, that can't be right. Are you sure there isn't some mistake? Don't play dumb with me, Mom. I checked the charges. The Beverly Hills Hotel, first-class upgrades, dinner at a 5-star restaurant, all of it on my account. She tisked. Well, maybe the bank got things mixed up. You know how those systems are. I felt my stomach turn. Are you seriously blaming the bank? She sighed, exasperated. Why are you making this a fight? It's just a misunderstanding. There it was. The same script she had used on me my whole life. Downplay, deflect, dismiss. I shut my eyes, gripping my knee to ground myself. This isn't a misunderstanding, I said, my voice low and firm. It's a pattern. A sharp exhale came from the other end. Sigrid, honestly, you're being ridiculous. Ridiculous. That word alone sent me spiraling back through years of memories. I was 16, working weekends at a grocery store to save up for a car. One day, I came home to find my savings wiped clean. Mom had borrowed it to cover rent. You should be proud to help the family, she had said, her tone almost scolding, like I was the selfish one. This is what responsible daughters do. I was 19, working 2 part-time jobs while taking full-time college courses. Vesper was on a fully paid semester abroad, courtesy of my parents. It's only fair, Mom had told me. She's older. She deserves it more. I was 23, fresh out of college, drowning in student debt. Every paycheck I earned went toward my family's bills while Vesper spent her days shopping, jobless by choice. Mom's reasoning? You're doing so well. You can afford to help a little longer. I was never their daughter. I was their safety net. I snapped back to the present, my fingers curling into a fist. Mom, let's cut the crap. You didn't lose your card. You used mine. Watch your tone, young lady, she snapped, her fake sweetness vanishing in an instant. No. My voice was calm but unyielding. You don't get to play the victim, not this time. Silence. I could practically hear her seething on the other end. I'm done funding your vacations. I'm done being your bank. I locked my accounts. You're on your own. Her voice rose. You ungrateful little... Click. I hung up. For the first time, I didn't feel guilty. I didn't feel the usual wave of self-doubt creeping in. I felt free. But freedom, I knew, always came with a price. Thunder rumbled in the distance. My phone vibrated again. Vesper. I stared at the screen, my pulse steady. Let's see what she had to say. The vibration of my phone rattled against the nightstand, dragging me out of a restless sleep. My body still felt sluggish from the last few days, but it wasn't sickness that twisted in my gut anymore. It was something worse, anticipation. I reached for my phone, squinting against the glow of the screen. 27 missed calls, 18 unread messages. Vesper. My stomach tightened as I scrolled through them. Vesper. You didn't have to be so dramatic, you know. Vesper. Mom is crying. Are you happy now? Vesper. Fix this, Sigrid. We're family. I let out a slow breath, my grip tightening. Family. That word didn't mean what it used to, not anymore. I locked my phone without responding. I didn't have the energy for another pointless back and forth. They had crossed a line, and I wasn't about to be guilt-tripped into pretending otherwise. Today, I had bigger things to focus on. I forced myself out of bed, ignoring the way my limbs ached, and went about my morning routine. Coffee, shower, get dressed. Everything mechanical, everything controlled. By the time I stepped outside, the rain had stopped, but the air was thick with the promise of another storm. I didn't care. I had work to do. The first sign that something was wrong came an hour into my day. Sigrid, a voice called from behind me. I turned to see Mr. Thorne, my boss, standing at my desk with a look I couldn't quite read. Can you step into my office? A cold prickle ran down my spine, but I nodded, following him inside. He closed the door, then walked over to his computer, turning the screen toward me. Did you send this? I leaned forward, my breath hitching as I scanned the email. It was from my company account, but it wasn't from me. Fake Sigrid email. I don't have time for your nonsense. Find someone else to deal with this. My pulse pounded in my ears. I never sent this, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. Mr. Thorne studied me. It came from your account. I swallowed hard, my hands trembling as I scanned the email details. And then I saw it. The IP address. It wasn't from my work laptop. It wasn't even from my apartment. It was from an out-of-state location. Los Angeles. My breath hitched. Vesper. That bitch. I clenched my fists, my nails digging into my palms, as a slow, simmering rage replaced the shock. I swear to you, I did not send that email, I said, my voice steel now. Someone hacked into my account. Mr. Thorne studied me for a moment, then exhaled. It is already looking into it. I hope, for your sake, you're telling the truth. I am. I stood, my entire body trembling as I walked out of his office, barely registering the murmured conversations around me. By the time I stepped outside, the crisp air barely cooled the heat burning under my skin. I pulled out my phone and dialed. She picked up on the second ring. Well, that was fast, Vesper mused, her voice dripping with fake innocence. What the hell did you do? A short pause, then a soft, amused chuckle. You're going to have to be more specific, little sis. My jaw locked. You sent that email. You tried to sabotage my job. Another pause, then laughter. I didn't try, she corrected. I did. My grip on the phone tightened. What the hell is wrong with you? Oh, please, she scoffed. I was just giving you a little break. You were always working too much anyway. I felt something snap inside me. You're insane. And you're predictable, she said. You always think you're above us, don't you? Always the responsible one, always judging, always looking down at me like I'm some kind of screw-up. I said nothing, because the truth was, I had. I had spent years pretending that if I just helped enough, if I just covered enough bills, took care of enough problems, bailed them out of enough messes, they would eventually change. But they never did. I exhaled, my voice like ice. I should have cut you all off years ago. A long pause, then her voice softer now. Then do it. Click. She hung up. I stood there, staring at my reflection in the building's glass doors, my heart hammering in my chest. They weren't going to stop. They weren't going to change. They wanted a fight? Fine. Let's see how far they were willing to go. I stormed back into the office, my pulse pounding harder than the wind howling through the streets outside. Every step felt heavy, charged with the kind of anger I had swallowed down for years. But not anymore. This time, I wasn't going to let it go. By the time I reached Mr. Thorne's office, my hands had stopped shaking. I knocked once before stepping inside. He was sitting at his desk, his expression unreadable. Sit, he said, gesturing to the chair across from him. I did. He exhaled, rubbing his temple before looking up at me. Sigrid, I need you to be completely honest with me. Did you send that email? I forced myself to meet his gaze. No, I didn't. Someone hacked my account. He studied me for a long moment. And you have proof of that? I'm working on it. The silence stretched. Then, a voice from the doorway. She didn't do it. I turned to see Ronan, one of my closest coworkers, standing there with his arms crossed. Mr. Thorne arched a brow. You're vouching for her? Ronan nodded. Without a doubt. Sigrid wouldn't write something like that. It's not just unprofessional, it's sloppy, and she's not sloppy. I swallowed. Mr. Thorne let out a slow breath before leaning back in his chair. If what you're saying is true, you need to find proof. Fast. I nodded, my hands balling into fists under the desk. You wanted a war, Vesper? I thought, my jaw tightening. You've got one. The moment I stepped out of the office, I pulled out my phone and called her. She answered almost immediately, her voice casual. Miss me already? I saw red. You're going to undo what you did. A beat of silence, then a soft chuckle. Why would I do that? You deserve a little humility. My grip on the phone tightened. You think this is about humility? You committed fraud. She scoffed. Oh, please. No one will care. It's just a silly email. I exhaled sharply, forcing myself to stay calm. You don't get it, do you? I will bury you for this. Her amusement faltered. Duck. Whatever. You can't do anything to me. I smiled, though there was nothing kind about it. Watch me. An hour later, I had everything ready. Screenshots of the fraudulent email, proof of my IP address not matching the sender, and a formal complaint drafted to HR. But first, I gave Vesper one last chance. I called her again, this time without an ounce of hesitation. She picked up, her voice sharper. What now? I didn't waste time. If you don't fix this, I'm pressing charges for fraud and identity theft. A beat of silence, then a laugh, this one forced. You wouldn't dare. I leaned back in my chair, calm now. Try me. I could hear her exhale through the line. Then, after a long pause, fine, whatever, I'll fix it. I didn't thank her. I simply hung up. And just like that, the power shifted. I took a deep breath, steadying myself. I wasn't naive enough to think this was over. This was just the first battle. My inbox pinged. I clicked it open, my stomach twisting as I read the subject line. HR email. We need to discuss the integrity of your work at the company. Please schedule a meeting as soon as possible. I clenched my jaw, locking my phone. The fight had just begun. I sat in the stiff chair across from HR, my hands gripping the armrests as I forced myself to breathe evenly. The walls of the conference room felt too small, the fluorescent lighting too harsh. Across from me, Rebecca Caldwell, the HR representative, folded her hands over a stack of printed emails. She was watching me like I was a ticking time bomb. Sigrid, she started, her voice too careful, too measured. There have been concerns about professionalism based on recent emails sent from your company account. I kept my expression neutral. I didn't send those emails. Rebecca arched a brow. That's a serious claim. Do you have proof? I had expected that. I reached into my bag, pulling out the printed logs from IT. Right here. The emails weren't sent from my IP address or any of my devices. I'm the victim of an attack, fraud and identity theft. She took the papers, scanning them. I could see the moment doubt crept in. Give us some time to review this, she finally said. We'll be in touch. I left the meeting room with a weight still pressing on my chest. They hadn't outright accused me of lying, but the suspicion was there. And until they cleared my name, that stain would linger. I clenched my fists. They tried to ruin my career. Now they're about to regret it. The elevator ride to my apartment felt longer than usual. I was exhausted, drained from the constant battles. All I wanted was to lock my door, take a hot shower, and figure out my next move. But the moment I stepped into the hallway, I knew something was wrong. They were here. My mother, Lenora, stood at my door, her coat draped over her shoulders like she was some grieving widow. Calder, my father, was next to her, silent as always. And then there was Vesper, leaning against the wall, arms crossed, smirking like she had already won. My stomach turned. I gritted my teeth, forcing my voice to stay calm. What are you doing here? Lenora's lips pressed into a thin line. We need to talk. No, I said immediately. You need to leave. Vesper rolled her eyes. Oh, come on, don't be so childish. You're making this worse than it has to be. My fingers curled into fists. Making this worse. You sabotaged my job, stole my money, and now you're standing outside my home like I owe you an explanation? Calder finally spoke, his voice as empty as ever. We're still family, Sigrid. You can't just cut us off like this. Something in me snapped. You don't get to tell me what I can and can't do. I shot back. Not after everything you've done. Lenora sighed like I was exhausting her. Listen, your sister needs help, and we need money to get back from Los Angeles. I barked out a laugh. That sounds like a you problem. Her face hardened. Don't be selfish. After everything we've done for you. My blood boiled. You mean after everything I've done for you? I snapped. I paid your bills, covered your expenses, made sure you never had to lift a damn finger. And the second I stopped, you ran out of money. Lenora's jaw clenched. We are your family, she hissed. And I'm done being your ATM, I shot back. She took a step forward, and instinctively, I moved to block the doorway. Move, she said. Get out, I countered. Vesper let out a dramatic sigh. Are you really going to call the cops on your own mother? I met her gaze, cold and unwavering. Yes. I pulled out my phone, my thumb hovering over the dial pad. Lenora's expression twisted, a flicker of uncertainty finally breaking through her righteous anger. You wouldn't dare, she whispered. I met her gaze, steady. Try me. Silence. Then Lenora's mask finally cracked. Fine, she spat. You're just like your father, weak and ungrateful. That was it. I hit dial. 911, what's your emergency? My family is trespassing on my property and refusing to leave, I said, loud enough for them to hear. I need officers at my apartment immediately. The effect was instant. Calder stepped back first. Let's go, he muttered under his breath. Vesper glared at me, her jaw clenched. Unbelievable! You'd do this to us? You did this to yourselves, I said, voice unwavering. They left, but I knew. This wasn't over. I exhaled, my hands still shaking as I locked the door behind me. Then my phone buzzed. Vesper, you just made the biggest mistake of your life. I stared at the message for a long moment. Then I deleted it. If this was war, I was going to win. I woke up to the sound of my phone vibrating nonstop. The cold morning air seeped through the cracks in my apartment's windows, but that wasn't why I shivered. I had a feeling, a gut-wrenching, skin-crawling feeling, that something had happened. I reached for my phone, my fingers stiff from sleep, and the second I unlocked it, I knew. My name was everywhere. Family group chats, Facebook posts, Instagram stories. They had gone public. I sat up, my stomach twisting as I clicked the first notification. A Facebook post from Lenora, my mother. It breaks my heart to see how money can turn a daughter against her own family. We raised her with love, and now she treats us like strangers. After everything we've sacrificed for her, she has abandoned us in our time of need. Please pray for her soul. I blinked. What? The hell? My eyes dropped to the comments. Random commenter. How could she do that to her own parents? Another commenter. Family always comes first. Disgusting behavior. Aunt Marjorie. Oh, Lenora, I had no idea you were suffering like this. Stay strong. I gripped the phone, my breath shallow. They just made this war public. And then, because my family didn't believe in stopping at one stab in the back, I got the second blow. Vesper's Instagram story. I clicked it, my heart beat like a war drum. Not many people know this, but Sigrid has a history of being selfish. She even stole money from our parents before. This isn't new. We've always had to take care of her, even when she refused to take care of us. I felt something inside me snap. They weren't just playing the victim, they were rewriting history. I had spent years sacrificing for them, years covering their expenses, their bad choices, their entire lives while they drained me dry. And now I was the villain? No. I threw my blankets off and stood up, my legs shaking. My reflection in the window looked foreign. Eyes dark with exhaustion, hair a tangled mess, jaw clenched so tightly it ached. I inhaled once, slowly. Then I fought back. I opened Facebook and started typing. My fingers flew over the keyboard, the words spilling out like wildfire. Sigrid's post. I never wanted to bring family drama online, but since my mother and sister decided to attack my reputation publicly, here are the facts. 1. My family stole money from me to fund their luxury trip to Los Angeles while I was sick in bed. 2. My mother has never worked a day in her life, and my father stood by while they manipulated me into paying their bills for years. 3. My sister Vesper lost her job over a year ago and has been refusing to work, instead relying on others to support her lifestyle. 4. I have never stolen a dime from them, but they have taken thousands from me. I attach screenshots, bank transactions, their fraudulent credit card charges, the fake email Vesper sent to my boss. Then I posted it. I stared at the screen, my pulse hammering. Let's see how they handled the truth. It took exactly 5 minutes before the first wave hit. My notifications exploded. Comments flooding in. Cousin Mary. Wait, what? They stole from you? Uncle David. Hold on, this changes everything. This isn't what Lenora said at all. Random commenter. OMG, the receipts. This is insane. I exhaled sharply, the tension in my shoulders starting to loosen. And then, a text from my cousin Elowen. Elowen. I'm with you. Let's expose them. I stared at the message, my heartbeat steady now. For the first time in years, I wasn't alone in this fight. But I knew one thing. This wasn't over. I woke up to hundreds of new notifications. The storm outside mirrored the chaos brewing in my inbox. Wind howling, rain slamming against the windows. I sat up slowly, grabbing my phone, already bracing myself for the backlash. It wasn't just backlash, it was a war zone. My post had exploded overnight. Support flooded in. Commenter 1. Your mother sounds exactly like mine. Stay strong. Commenter 2. Wow, the audacity of your family is insane. Commenter 3. They used you for years and expected you to stay quiet? Not anymore. I exhaled sharply, scrolling through the sea of messages. And then, right on cue, the guilt-tripping began. Aunt Martha. You didn't have to humiliate them like this, Sigrid. Family is family. I scoffed, my fingers tightening around the phone. Then where were you when they were humiliating me? I was about to type that exact response when my phone rang. Unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. A rough inhale. Then, your mother. She collapsed. My blood turned to ice. Calder. My father. The man who had stood in the background my entire life, watching my mother and sister drain me dry. What? I breathed. His voice was cautious, hesitant. She's in the hospital. The stress of all this, it was too much for her. I felt my stomach churn. This was too convenient. A woman who had spent her entire life manipulating every situation, controlling every conversation, suddenly too fragile to handle the consequences? I gritted my teeth. Which hospital? I walked into the ER with my arms crossed, my heartbeat steady. I wasn't here out of guilt. I was here to confirm the truth. Lenora was lying in a hospital bed, looking pathetic. Her hair was carefully disheveled, an IV taped to her wrist, the picture of frailty. Vesper was sitting beside her, glaring daggers at me. Lenora's eyes fluttered open, as if she had just enough strength to acknowledge me. Sigrid. Her voice was weak, raspy. You did this to me. My jaw clenched. There it was. The final, desperate attempt to pull me back into their control. Vesper smirked, arms crossed. Happy now? I didn't say a word. Instead, I turned on my heel and walked straight to the nurse's station. A woman in scrubs barely glanced up from her clipboard. What happened? I asked, my voice perfectly even. She scanned the file. Mild dehydration. No cardiac issues. She's being discharged soon. I let out a slow, steady breath. Of course! I turned back to the room, my mind clear for the first time in years. They were trying to pull me back one last time. Lenora's weak act was still in full force when I stepped back inside. I walked right up to her bedside, looking down at the woman who had spent her entire life controlling me. I see you're fine, I said flatly. That's good, but I'm done. Her eyes flashed. You can't just... I already did. I turned to leave, but before I could take 2 steps, Vesper lunged. Her fingers wrapped around my arm in a bruising grip. You think you can just cut us off? she hissed, her nails digging into my skin. I met her gaze, calm and unshaken. Watch me. I yanked my arm free and walked out without looking back. The cold air hit me like a slap as I stepped outside, filling my lungs with something that almost felt like freedom. My phone buzzed. Email notification. I glanced at the sender. Mr. Thorne. Subject. Your job. I hesitated, my thumb hovering over the screen. Then, for the first time in a long while, I felt hope. 3 months. It had been 3 months since I had last seen them, last heard their voices, last let their words worm their way under my skin. And in those 3 months, my life had transformed in ways I never thought possible. I wasn't living in reaction anymore. I was living in control. I had cut off every single financial tie to my family. No more money funneled into their endless cycle of irresponsibility. No more late-night guilt-tripping phone calls about bills they never intended to pay themselves. I had won my battle at work. After the dust settled from Vesper's sabotage, the truth came out. Mr. Thorne had reviewed the security logs and confirmed that the fraudulent email had originated from an IP in Los Angeles, not my devices. Vesper's pathetic attempt to ruin me had backfired spectacularly. And in the most ironic twist of all, I had been promoted. I was now overseeing a major campaign, making more money than ever, and, most importantly, finally enjoying my job again. Therapy helped, more than I expected. For the first time, I was learning what my life looked like when it wasn't shaped around the chaos of others. I went to art galleries. I tried new restaurants. I spent lazy Sundays with friends instead of anxiously waiting for the next crisis call from my mother. I traveled. I breathed. And for the first time in years, my mind wasn't weighed down by their voices. I never knew how much space they took up in my head until they were gone. The suitcase sat neatly by the door, packed with everything I needed for my long overdue trip. Rome, the city I had once planned to see with my parents. The trip I had meticulously arranged, only for them to steal it from me. But this time, I was going alone. I glanced at the clock. My flight was in 5 hours, just enough time for one last email check before I left. I opened my inbox, scrolled, deleted spam, approved a final work memo, and then, one new message. The sender made my stomach clench. Calder, father. The subject line was simple. I'm sorry. I stared at it for a long time before clicking. Sigrid, I know you don't owe us anything. I just wanted you to know that I see what we did. I see it now. And I'm sorry. I don't expect forgiveness. I just needed you to know that. Take care, Dad. I read it twice. I didn't cry. I didn't feel anger, just quiet understanding. Maybe he meant it. Maybe he didn't. Maybe he was still playing a role. Or maybe, for the first time in his life, he was telling the truth. Either way, it wasn't my burden to carry anymore. I hovered over the reply button. Then, I deleted the email. No response, no closure, just silence. The airport was buzzing with energy, the kind of restless excitement that only travel could bring. I moved through the terminal with ease, my steps light, my mind clear. At the gate, a flight attendant greeted me with a warm smile. Welcome aboard, business or pleasure? I smiled back, adjusting the strap of my bag. Pleasure, definitely pleasure. As I settled into my seat, I pulled out my phone one last time. A new message, not from my family, from a friend, a real friend. I chuckled, shaking my head as I typed out a quick reply. Then, I locked my phone, leaned back, and let out a breath I felt like I had been holding for years. I was free. I wasn't their victim anymore. I was me. And my life. It was finally mine. Before we wrap up, I want to take a moment to reflect on everything we've just been through together. Life has a way of teaching us the hardest lessons through the people we love the most. Sometimes those lessons come wrapped in betrayal, manipulation, and heartbreak. But here's the truth. Your worth is not determined by what you can give to others. You are not obligated to sacrifice your peace, your happiness, or your success to maintain toxic relationships. Cutting off family is never easy. Society tells us that family is everything, but what if your family is the very thing holding you back? What if they take and take until there's nothing left of you? You don't owe them your destruction. You don't have to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. I learned that the hard way. But here's what I want you to take from this. It's okay to walk away. It's okay to choose yourself. The people who truly love you won't demand your suffering as proof of your loyalty. So, now I ask you, have you ever had to walk away from someone you once thought would always be there for you? Have you ever had to rebuild yourself after realizing the people closest to you never truly had your best interests at heart? If this story resonated with you, drop a 1 in the comments or tell me where you're watching from. And if you've ever been through something similar, I'd love to hear your story, because trust me, you're not alone. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one. There are so many more powerful stories to tell, and I can't wait to share them with you. Until next time, take care of yourself first.